Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Welcome to WrestleMania!
If it's happening in professional wrestling, we're breaking it down. The matches, the moments, the rumors, and yes, even the hot takes. This is Pro Wrestling Focus. No nonsense, no wasted motion, just pure wrestling talk. Now, here's your host, Cody Springer.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Pro Wrestling Focus. It's WrestleMania week, and this right here is Night 1 predictions. You already know the deal. WrestleMania is a 2-night spectacle, so I'm breaking it down into 2 separate shows. Today, we're diving into everything that's going down on Night 1. The matches, the stories, the surprises, and of course, my bold predictions. This is the biggest weekend of the year in pro wrestling, and I've got thoughts, hot takes, and a whole lot to say. So buckle up, hit play, and let's get into this, because WrestleMania 41 is here. Alright, the first match I want to start off with for Night 1 is for the World Heavyweight Championship. The reigning general, Gunther, the champion, defending against main event, Jey Uso. So the build for this match has been frustrating. It has. Because, it felt like a bunch of filler. Week after week, you had Gunther just, pointing out how much of a clown he thinks Jey is. And then, you bring Otis and Tozawa into it, and Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, just all this unnecessary crap, right? We weren't really getting anywhere to a point where we could sit back and say, oh, damn, this build has been exciting. It was just frustrating because this is for the world title, this is supposed to be a big fight feel, and the build is supposed to be fantastic, and it hasn't been. However, it has gotten better over the last couple weeks. We had Gunther do what he did to Jimmy Uso. He zip-tied Jey to the ring rope, and he beat Jimmy into a bloody pulp, wiped Jimmy's blood all over his body like it was a badge of honor, like it was a trophy. And, having Jey watch that, being completely hopeless, that was classic heel work right there. It was very jarring to see what Gunther did to Jay's brother. It was definitely taking a personal approach that I felt like this feud desperately needed. And it was nice to finally see it get to that point. But the follow-up to that, not great. I mean, Jay, at first he kind of felt like he was like this person who had PTSD from what he just had to witness. Like, he should have been gunning for Gunther. He should have been at his throat, attacking him, trying to get even for what Gunther did to his brother. And then Jay's saying, I'm not scared of you anymore, and I pray for the man I'm about to become at WrestleMania. And then on Raw this past Monday, Gunther and Jay had their respective promos to hype up the match. So, yeah, this build's been it just hasn't been that great, to be honest. But, we're going to get it on Saturday for the World Heavyweight Championship. And so, who do I think is going to win? If you would have asked me at the start of this build who I thought was going to walk away from WrestleMania champion, I would have said Jey Uso. This is going to be his moment. I think they want to do the big moment where, he wins the title and everyone's eating in the crowd and everything. But as the weeks went along, my confidence in Jey being the winner of this match has just kept dwindling with every passing week. So with that being said, I think Gunther is going to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. I think it's going to be close. I think there will be a moment in the match where Jay's building all this momentum, and it looks like he could actually pull this off and beat Gunther to become champion. But then somebody comes along and screws him over. And I think that person's going to be Sami Zayn. Now, a lot of people are probably like, oh, what the hell, Sami Zayn? They're going to think like it's not feasible. Well, I think it could happen, man, because think about it, man. At the Royal Rumble this past January, Jey Uso accidentally eliminated Sami from the match. And I felt like they did that on purpose. And then, Sami, he was cool with it. He said, he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm over it. I'm happy for you. You deserve it. But look what happened to Sami after the Rumble. Kevin Owens tried to end his career with a package pile driver on Raw. And nobody came out to stop that. And then Sami and Kevin face off at Elimination Chamber in that unsanctioned match, a brutal unsanctioned match. And Kevin Owens tried to do the package pile driver on the concrete floor. And it was Randy Orton who came out to make the save. It wasn't the Bloodline. It wasn't Roman Reigns. It wasn't Jimmy Uso. Not even Jey Uso. It was Randy Orton who came out to make the save and take down Kevin Owens. So I think, at this point, I think this is going to lead to a Sami heel turn at WrestleMania. Because Sami, he's been gone ever since Elimination Chamber. So I think it'd be a big moment for him to come back here and screw over Jey Uso. Maybe he comes out in support of Jey at first, and he's like, oh yeah, do it, get on the top rope and hit the splash. And then that's when Sami does the unthinkable and he screws over Jey. Let's say the referee's knocked down, and then that's when Sami comes in and he obliterates Jey with a Helluva Kick. And yeah, then Gunther will take advantage and pin Jey to retain the World Heavyweight Championship. And then this will lead to a feud between Jey and Sami. And then Sami's going to be like, well, you guys, you, Roman and Jimmy, you guys were never there for me when I needed you. But I was always there for you guys when you needed me. I mean, I could be wrong, but, I think that's a bold prediction right there. I think Gunther will retain thanks to Sami Zayn.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
All right, and we have the World Tag Team Championship match, the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar against the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. This was kind of like a thrown together type of match, to be honest. There wasn't that much of a build towards it. The New Day, they were bitching to Adam Pearce that they need a match for the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and they felt like they deserved it. And, and Adam Pearce told them, no, you got to go out there and earn it. So the New Day became in contention for the titles, and then they faced off against the War Raiders on Raw. The match ended in disqualification, I believe. And then they had the promos on Raw. They had a video package of the War Raiders hyping the match, and then the New Day had a backstage interview. I don't really have too many thoughts on this, but I do think we're going to get a title change here. So I think, the New Day, Kofi and Xavier will retain or will become the new World Tag Team Champions, because, to be honest, ever since they, turned on Big E and they went heel, they really haven't done a whole lot. They just been booed and hated by everybody, but not really making that much of an impact. So I think that, they will win the titles here from the War Raiders. They'll probably cheat to win, or, do some kind of screwy finish where they end up defeating them, and they will become the new World Tag Team Champions. All right, the next match will be Rey Mysterio against El Grande Americano. Man, this El Grande Americano stuff, it's been interesting. It really has. Come on. We all know it's Chad Gable, underneath the El Grande Americano get up. We all know it's Chad Gable, but I wonder, I think it's interesting because I think they've been having two people be El Grande Americano. I do think Chad Gable has been under the mask most of the time, but I do think that they have somebody else also portraying El Grande Americano. I don't know who that is, but yeah, I think at WrestleMania, we might get some kind of reveal on who El Grande Americano actually is. Chad Gable will probably wrestle most of the match with Ray, and then they'll probably do some kind of switcheroo where somebody else comes out as El Grande Americano, and then, they finish the match and everything. Let's say Ray gets the victory, and then Ray pulls off the mask and it's somebody else. So yeah, I do think that's what they could do here, in this match. So I do think we'll get some kind of reveal on who El Grande Americano is. So I'm gonna predict that Rey Mysterio is going to win in this match, and they're gonna reveal who El Grande Americano is, but it's not gonna be Chad Gable. So yeah, they're gonna keep up the mystery a little bit longer, and yeah, I think it's gonna be kind of funny to see how it all plays out when it's finally revealed that it has been Gable this whole time. And yeah, so because this whole luchador storyline, where Gable was getting pissed because he couldn't beat these luchadors, he couldn't beat Penta. So, he went to Mexico, and he was trying to learn the ways of the luchador and everything, and then here we go with the emergence of El Grande Americano. So yeah, it's been kind of an interesting little storyline, but yeah, I think they're going to keep it going a little bit longer, and yeah, I think the mask will get pulled off, but it will not be Chad Gable, who is El Grande Americano. It'll end up being somebody else, but I think in the end that it'll get revealed that it's actually Chad Gable this whole time. All right, our next match here is Jade Cargill versus Naomi. Yeah, it was revealed at the Elimination Chamber that it was Naomi who attacked Jade Cargill back in November. Jade was attacked on an episode of SmackDown. She was thrown onto a car, and nobody knew who it was. And it ended up resulting in Jade getting replaced as Bianca Belair's tag team partner. And yeah, Naomi pretty much stepped into Jade's spot, and she was tag team champions with Bianca. And then it all came to a head at Elimination Chamber when Jade returned, and she brutally attacked Naomi. And then, Naomi was forced to reveal that she was indeed the one who attacked Jade to Bianca. Bianca wanted answers as to what had happened. And yeah, Naomi said that she did it for Bianca because, Jade, she felt like Jade was trying to steal her spotlight, and she was trying to use Bianca and everything. So Naomi said she did it for Bianca. And then, and Naomi underwent this character change, where she's has the wearing caution tape on her gear, and she's saying that Jade better exercise caution when dealing with her. And it's all going to come to a head at WrestleMania when these two finally get their hands on one another. I think Naomi's character change has been pretty good. I like her heel character. And the cinematic promos we've been getting have been underrated on SmackDown, man. They've really have been. It's great stuff that they're producing for Naomi and her new character. And I really hope that, they continue with this, because I think Naomi could make something out of it, because it's an interesting take on her character. And yeah, and then we have Jade, who, this is her first big singles match, really. She's, been in tag team situations. Last year, WrestleMania, it was her, Naomi, and Bianca. They were dubbing themselves the Big Three, and they went up against Damage Control. But, this is Jade's first real big singles match here. And, it's at WrestleMania against Naomi, who is a seasoned veteran. So, yeah, I think this could be a pretty good match. I think they should have made this a gimmick match of some type, maybe like I can't really make it a straight fight, because, that's already being used, but, they could have used some type of gimmick match, maybe like a cage match or something like that, but, I think it should be a pretty good match between these two. And as far as my prediction goes, I'm going to go Jade Cargill to win against Naomi. And, this will establish Jade, build her momentum. And as she, is getting, her push as a big single star in the women's division going.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Forward. All right, up next for the WWE United States Championship, we have the mega star, L.A. Knight, defending his championship against the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu. Yeah, this is interesting matchup here. I kind of felt like L.A. Knight would have been in a bigger spot come this WrestleMania. He's been kind of floating around in the mid-card. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe after WrestleMania, L.A. Knight starts getting back into the main event picture a little bit. He's still over, he's still popular with the fans and everything. And yeah, I'm kind of hoping that he takes a step forward after WrestleMania. And then Jacob Fatu, he's climbing up the card. He is going to be a major player in this company for years to come. And yeah, he is going to be that monster heel, that force that, that is sorely needed. Because Jacob, in my opinion, he's kind of like Umaga. He reminds me so much of Umaga, but he's also got the mic skills too. He's got the mic skills, he's got charisma, he's got the in-ring skills. Jacob Fatu is going to be a star for years to come. And then, we've had the ongoing issues between Jacob and Solo Sikoa, and I feel like that is going to be a major point for this match. Maybe Solo and Tama Tonga are ringside for this match. or maybe they tried to be ringside for this match, and Jacob's like, no, I gotta do this by myself, so you guys stay in the back, and I'm gonna go win this championship for the family, because that's what Jacob's been saying, that he is going to win the United States Championship and bring it home to the family. But as far as who I think is going to win the match, I'm going to go with LA Knight to retain, because I feel like at some point during this match, Solo Sikoa is going to screw over Jacob. Yeah, I think Solo, he is going to screw Jacob over out of jealousy. And, because Jacob and Solo, they've been going back and forth, over the last couple of weeks. There's clearly tension there. And, Jacob, he don't love Solo anymore. Not as much as he used to, because, you remember the catchphrase, "I love you, Solo." Well, there ain't much love there anymore. So, yeah, I think what's going to happen is that we're going to get like a similar situation to WrestleMania 39. Remember when Solo hit the spike on Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns capitalized on that? I think something similar is going to happen here. It looks like Jacob is in prime position to win the match, and then Solo Sikoa will get involved. He'll hit the spike on Jacob, and Jacob, he'll be choking, and everything. And then LA Knight will take advantage and hit the BFT to retain the United States Championship. So, yeah, I'm going to go with LA Knight to retain the title here. And then this will result in Jacob feuding with Solo in the future. All right, now let's go with the match that I think will be the co-main event of WrestleMania Night 1. It'll be for the WWE Women's Championship. Tiffany Stratton defending against Charlotte Flair. Oh, man. Yeah, the build to this match has been piss poor. It really has. And I think Tiffany has not looked that great. And up until 2 weeks ago, when Tiffany went off script in that promo with Charlotte. And that was, I think, the moment where it shifted this WrestleMania build, because it went from being a lackluster build, a cold momentum, dead in the water almost, to going like, oh, okay, there might be something here, because as you remember, Tiffany went off script during the promo, and it was only after Charlotte Flair had supposedly went off script first, and, Charlotte was making fun of Tiffany's high-pitched voice, and she was doing like, oh, it's squeaky Tiffany, and all that, and it started to piss Tiffany off. So Tiffany went off script and said Charlotte wasn't the queen of shit, and that she was 0 for 3 when it came to marriages, which that was savage as hell to say that, man. Like that, you talk about taking a personal stab at somebody, that's how you do it right there, so this feud became personal, not only on screen but off screen as well, and it kind of made Charlotte look a little bad in the process. And then they followed it up on SmackDown this past Friday, where Charlotte jumped Tiffany in the parking lot before SmackDown went on the air, and then Charlotte was sent home as a result of that. And then she came back later on the night when Tiffany had a match against Roxanne Perez, and Charlotte attacked her, and officials had to come out, and even Wade Barrett got up in her face and told her that she needed to stop. So, who I think is going to win this match? This is tough. It could go either way, honestly. I want Tiffany to keep the title here because I feel like they need to keep building her up. And I feel like if she lost, it would hurt quite a bit. So, with that being said, from a logic standpoint, Tiffany should go over and keep the title. But I could also see WWE also having Charlotte Flair win the title as well. So, I could be wrong here, but I'm going to go with Tiffany Stratton to retain. That's the bold prediction here because most people are expecting Charlotte to win here and become the new women's champion. Charlotte's going to get the title at some point. That's just going to happen. But I do think that Tiffany needs the WrestleMania win more than Charlotte does. So, I'm going to go with Tiffany Stratton to retain here. And I really hope.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hope that's what happens. All right, and that brings us to the main event of WrestleMania 41, Night 1. It'll be the Tribal Chief, the OTC, Roman Reigns, versus the best in the world, CM Punk, accompanied by the wise man, Paul Heyman, and Seth freaking Rollins. This will be a triple threat match, and there's a lot at stake. You got history, legacy, loyalty, betrayal. Those are all themes here in this triple threat match. You got three guys who hate each other. They do not like each other. Roman has never liked Punk, and Punk has never liked Roman. You have Seth and Roman with their complicated history. And then you have the absolute hatred between Punk and Rollins. They're mortal enemies. And then CM Punk finally revealed the favor. The favor that Paul Heyman has owed him from helping out Roman Reigns in the Bloodline at War Games back in November. And Punk revealed that, Heyman would be in his corner at WrestleMania, that he was going to force Roman Reigns to deal with Punk and Heyman. It was a promise fulfilled. Back then in the dark days of the ECW reboot, Punk was pleading with Paul Heyman not to leave WWE because he thought that would spell the end for his run with the company. And Heyman told Punk, when you main event WrestleMania one day, then we will force them to deal with us. And I was talking about the old regime, Vince McMahon, the old guard, but now they're not there anymore. And now it's Punk forcing Roman Reigns out of his comfort zone and having to deal with Punk and Paul Heyman. And Seth Rollins here, he's been the third man in this whole saga he's been the wild card in the situation. He was pushing Paul Heyman to step aside, saying that it'd be the best thing for everybody. And then Rollins putting his hands on Heyman, smacking him around, saying, how much are you worth? And then Roman Reigns is feeling betrayed by Paul Heyman. That was his wise man, his confidant, the guy that's supposed to be at his side. And now Roman feels betrayed by Paul Heyman. This has been a compelling story, and it's been true cinema. Absolute cinema. And I think we're in for a wild main event for sure. So who do I think is going to win? A couple weeks ago, I would have said I think it's going to be Punk. That's going to win, but I don't feel that way anymore. Yeah, I believe that it's going to be Seth Rollins who is going to win this match. And it's going to be because of Paul Heyman. Yeah, I think Paul Heyman is going to turn on CM Punk and Roman Reigns in this match. And I think Heyman is going to align himself with the visionary, Seth Rollins. Yeah, it's going to be a wild swerve. And I think people are going to go, holy crap, because people are probably thinking, that Punk is going, or that Heyman is going to, screw Roman Reigns over and help, his best friend CM Punk win. I don't think that's going to happen. When you're torn between two people that you really love, but they're both not treating you the way that you would hope to be treated. And then you have the third man in this equation who's telling you that they're both garbage individuals. And then Seth Rollins, throughout that line on Raw, saying that he was going to do what is best for business. Well, the last time that phrase was used, John Cena sold his soul to The Rock. So people are speculating out there that Seth Rollins is going to do the same thing at WrestleMania. That Seth Rollins is going to, just like John Cena, sell his soul. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but I'm throwing it out there because it's been talked about and it's picking up a little bit of steam. But I do think Seth Rollins is going to win this match, and it's going to be because of Paul Heyman. And it is going to be the ultimate tale of betrayal, and it is going to fracture the relationships with Roman and Punk completely. It is going to be very interesting to see what happens at WrestleMania, for sure, especially with this match. It is going to be a thrill ride throughout. All right, that's going to do it for my night one predictions. But before I go, let me leave you with a couple of what ifs to chew on. What if Sami Zayn, the beloved underdog, Mr. Loyalty himself, shows his true colors and screws over Jey Uso to help Gunther retain the World Heavyweight Championship? I know, wild, but this is WrestleMania. So where friendships die, factions form, and the unthinkable happens. And the other curveball I threw at you, what if Paul Heyman, the puppet master, doesn't walk out with Roman Reigns or CM Punk? What if Heyman throws his loyalty behind Seth freaking Rollins and helps him walk out with all the glory? I could be completely off the rails here, or I could be 100% right. Either way, we're going to find out soon enough. I'll be back tomorrow with predictions for WrestleMania Night 2, and if you thought Night 1 was packed, wait until you see what I've got lined up next. So enjoy the ride, trust your gut, or trust mine, and I'll catch you on the next one. This has been Pro Wrestling Focus, and remember, expect the unexpected.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No